Hello, and welcome back to another episode of To Whom It May Concern. I'm your host, Malak, here with my co-hosts, Inara, Joel, and Mariam.
Hey, Assalamu alaikum.
So we've all heard of the basic Hollywood term trophy wife, but what is a trophy wife? And I think it'll be fun to discuss what is it like realistically being a wife and kind of how roles have changed these days and how that fits into the whole idea of the perfect ideal woman.
It's so interesting. When I think of trophy wife, you think of a woman who's pretty, sits back at home, just constantly kind of like shopping as her husband is working, but also somebody who's not very intellectual. So I feel like it's not a very positive term when you say trophy wife.
Yeah, it's usually someone who marries rich and is able to just live life frivolously and not have like a care in the world sort of thing.
Yeah, it's funny because when I was looking up like what they consider a trophy wife, like the whole Hollywood definition, it's like, 10 things that make you a trophy wife or that can make you a trophy wife. And it's like your credit card bills miraculously always paid off, but you've never worked a day in your life. Like sometimes it's a really younger woman, like really good looking and an older man. So it's like the whole idea of a sugar daddy, like
Yeah.
no, you're just there kind of to be an image on a man's arm. You're not necessarily there to share opinions or anything.
It's definitely a derogatory term, but I feel like in the past those women were considered trophies because that's what a woman's role was supposedly supposed to be in the past, where you just look good. You're not expected to like work or have any type of depth whatsoever.
But I feel like traditional wives though were like cooking and cleaning, and I don't think trophy wife encompasses that. It's literally just like chilling and just relaxing. But
No,
a wife is somebody who would cook and clean, like you're not just sitting back and doing nothing, like being a homemaker.
Yeah, I think I would agree that the term trophy wife doesn't include cooking and cleaning at home. It's
no,
like out and about and someone else does those things for you. But again, because it's supposed to be somebody that's considered very wealthy. So those aren't considered, you don't have to sit at home and do that stuff. But I think it's kind of ironic to be discussing this or this term in general because we're in a time where everyone is like speaking out about rights and equality and intellectual, like being intellectual, and especially women are making such like large strides that this term is like definitely looked down upon. Like you don't really want to be considered a trophy wife because everything that comes with it is like everything against what we've been fighting for up to this point.
I don't really use it in a derogatory term. It's more of a joke.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to go to work. I should just marry a rich guy and become a trophy wife sort of thing. And it's funny because even like some guys that I went to school with would say the same thing. Like, I should just marry a rich woman and then become a trophy husband. It's just like, it's sort of like an excuse or a backup plan sort of thing, but as a joke because no one ever actually would work towards that.
So, I mean, I think a lot less women these days would want to be a trophy wife because the roles of a woman have changed also. So if we look back to even our mothers, I feel like what they were taught while they were growing up is the role of a woman, or like what they were encouraged to do versus the things that we're encouraged to do today, or the expectations that we have today are very different.
Well, exactly. So the expectations of women before were supposed to be just like kind of sit there, look pretty sort of thing. Again, you guys mentioned the lack of intellectuality, lack of an opinion, that an ability to speak up or have have any sort of say so, which is why women of today, even if they were the quote unquote out exterior of a trophy wife, like they were rich, they didn't have that many worries, they still would have an opinion. They like, you know what I mean? They still have some sort of intellectuality that they don't want to just be that image that everyone's talking about.
Yeah.
I feel like in the past, people wanted to be like that trophy wife because they wanted to marry rich and because women couldn't make money on their own in that sense. But now I feel like trophy wife still exists, not in the name itself, but in the fact that people think there's still like this perfect type of wife that someone should be. So like there's still like a box for it.
And we still hear the term, oh, she's wifey material, or we hear this term now being thrown around instead of like trophy wife. It's more like you see somebody that's like cooking and cleaning, oh, she's like wifey material. What do you guys think? Do you think that's like a negative term when you say something is wifey material, or is that okay?
I don't take it as something negative. But yeah, it's usually it usually reiterates that the women roles that's able to make a woman a wife,
Yeah,
basically.
like you only hear someone say wifey material when you're cooking or cleaning.
Yeah.
So again, it goes back to the idea that like that's your responsibility, which I don't necessarily disagree with. But like Khawar said, I mean, I've never taken it negatively, but you only hear that term when it comes to those chores or something like that.
Yeah, I feel
Or
like it's
taking
commonly
care-
used. Sorry, Malik. I feel like it's commonly used for that, but I also think it's also any good quality that that person is looking for. So I feel like husbands can be like, oh, she's wifey material if she maybe they want a go-getter or somebody who's ambitious, you know, who is like independent. So I feel like it could be depending on like what the person is and like that's what they're looking for.
Have you ever heard it used in that way?
No.
I was gonna
Yeah.
say, I don't
So
think I've ever heard that.
no. So if it is like that, that would be a positive
I
way,
never really
because then
like
it's just
hung out with like guys for me to know, but like as women we use it to be like, oh, like wow, she's wifey material. We jokingly say it when like she's cooking and cleaning. We say wow, mashallah ma'addala, stuff like that.
yeah.
I don't know.
I mean, have you
But-
ever heard your like brothers or cousins see like an independent girl and be like, wow, she's wifey
Wifey
material?
material.
So then
You know, some guys who want to be like, oh, she's like a rich girl, like yeah, she's like but they wouldn't say wifey material.
well, yeah, like we should marry her so
Marry
that we
her.
don't have to worry.
Yeah.
But I guess that just goes to show. So like Malak and I both said that we don't take it negatively, even though it kind of does have that, like it just keeps that woman at that same thing, like just.
But I don't think cooking and
So-
cleaning is a negative thing. Like, why do we get so offended by it? Like, why are we so sensitive? Like, I
What-
think it's good quality that you're taking care of your family, that you're cooking, you're cleaning, you're helping out the house, you're raising your children.
I guess
I don't know why we coin it so negatively. Like, our moms are.
it's
so many
coined
people-
negatively. Yeah, that's true, but it's coined negatively because that is a woman's role. That's why it's so negative. Like, why is it my responsibility only just because I'm a woman? And why is that? And before, that was the only responsibility that was allowed. Like, you're at home, you have to be a homemaker, you have to cook, clean. Even though, yes, everyone is supposed to be taking care of their household. So
Yeah.
that's why it turned into a negative thing, because yeah, like this is my room, my house, I have to take care of it regardless of I'm a woman or a man.
Mm.
But when it's no, this household now, this is your responsibility that you have to take on, just like because you're a woman and everyone else who's not a woman doesn't have to do that, that's when it becomes negative. And especially now with the expectation that women also should work or have to work or they want to work, and having that burden of doing both or balancing both.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to allude to earlier when I was saying like the roles of women today has also changed. And that could be in the fact that we're furthering education a lot more than they did in the past, or we're trying to aim for degrees and professions that are like require a lot more schooling, require a lot more time and effort. Like it's harder to divide time now. I think that's where the aspect of like, well, my role isn't just to be at home anymore. And for some people that works. Like some people are at home and they don't mind being just homemakers, and that's perfectly fine. We have mothers that are stay-at-home mothers, you know. But then again, there's also the aspect that maybe your wife does want to go out and she does want to work, and like what happens then to the house? Is it just gonna fall apart because she may be not be able to dedicate as much time to the home, you know? So
Here's also another thing though. I think it's more so the attitude that is attached with it that makes it seem like it's a negative thing. So like before, it'd be like, oh, you're just in the home. Oh, you don't have an opinion because all you do, like this is all you do. If historically and even now, if being a homemaker was like something that people looked up to, or like that people always spoke positively, like, oh, you do deserve an opinion because you work in the home, so you know this and that, then people wouldn't be so annoyed with saying like, no, this is my role. You know what I mean?
I think
Like
with any role, no one should be looked at as less than. So I feel like when
100%.
women started coming out and going to work and fighting for their rights to work, I feel like one way we accidentally did that was by putting down people that do stay at home and homemakers. I don't think that's right either, because everybody's role is important in what you choose to do. If that's what you want to do, that's what you want to do. Like, no one has the right to judge you for doing that. But I think the problem comes with the pressure that no matter what, you are going to be perfect in some type of way. So you're going to be the perfect mom, you're going to be the perfect worker, you're going to have the perfect balance, and we put so much pressure on ourselves to do that, and we often see that we fall short of it because nobody's perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And another thing I think is really important when we think of, like, when we think things are condescending, such as, oh, your role is in the kitchen, or, oh, you should just be a trophy wife, or, oh, you're wifey material, when you're only talking about those chores, is because look how far and how hard women had to fight just to be seen as equals. So when you think about, oh, the suffrage and all those years women were protesting or they were fighting to try to be seen at the same level, and then you try to, like, demonize women or, like, bring them down by saying, oh, you're a trophy wife, which means you have no intellect, or, oh, you just stay at home, which means you can have no opinions on the outside world. Like, always just said that women to try to bring us back after all the suffering it took to get to where we are, which we're still fighting in a lot of aspects to be seen as equal.
And do you think now we've, like, more couples have accepted the fact that women are more in the workplace, like, there's shared roles, they're not the traditional, like, do you think we've advanced, and even within, like, especially our culture, do you think we've kind of, like, progressed?
I think in general we have. There's still, I guess, the more traditional way of looking at things, and like, men work outside the home, women work out inside the home, sort of thing. And if it works for some couples, that's fine. I don't think anyone has like, they shouldn't be judged for wanting to live more traditional, and then the traditional couples shouldn't judge other couples for wanting to be more quote unquote progressive, or, like, whatever those, like, traditional progressive titles that they have.
Yeah, I like that, because it's like everybody knows their relationship best, and they could run their house accordingly and whatever works for them and what's best suited for them.
Yeah, so if the woman wants to be the one that's always cooking and cleaning, that's fine. And if a couple is like, okay, no, your role is this when it comes to cooking, cleaning, we're both gonna help support the household financially. Like, it just works with whatever couple.
But I do think the greater culture we're grown up in today, and, like, that our kids will be grown up in, is that women are continuing their education, or they are working, and people are more accepting of that. Like, they're more understanding like that. And even parents now that may not have pushed, like, higher education are pushing their daughters to study more and to get more educated and to be more out there. So I think it's both the parents that are becoming, like, more encouraging, and I think it's, like, future spouses that are also understanding.
I feel like our generation, though, had, like, mixed messages growing up. Like, our parents are like, yeah, 100% go get your education, do this, this, and that. And then when it came to, like, the marriage, it was still more on the traditional side. And so, like, we are kind of that generation where we're like, okay, how do we balance, like, going to school, working, and then, like, wanting to be that, like, the perfect traditional ought to be girl. So it's like I feel like we were still in the middle, because we're still, like, that, like, first step into going to that direction. And then it'll be interesting to see, like, what our generation will do with our kids.
Yeah, how it'll be raising your kids after what you through.
Well, it's funny to see what different factors play into even, like, how these roles are viewed. Because if you think about it, regardless if people like it or not, most families need nowadays a 2-income household because of the way the economy is going. I mean, right now, the way the economy is going so bad, even having a 1-income household is very valuable. And because everybody's losing their jobs because Corona, because the economy, because everything's, like, up in the air right now. Having a stable job is one of the best selling points to, like, get a mate in the first place at this point. So, like, regardless of whether you like it or not, this is something that is happening. So you're just seeing how, like, the families adjust to it.
This is kind of off topic, but I'm reminded of Mulan, A Girl Worth Fighting For.
Oh, yeah.
Not a girl that speaks her mind.
Yeah. But
and they're like, nah.
Yeah, they wanted one that, like, will admire them, that cooks for them, and then what was the other one?
Cleans.
And will laugh at his jokes.
Yeah, it's so funny.
Now it's shifted. It's like, oh, you got an income? Okay. We like
No.
you now.
It's
Okay,
yeah.
so do you guys think that, so we're talking about how women are like continuing education and working a lot more outside of the home and whatnot, but do you guys think that women should still, like the women that are working outside the house, should still have to maintain a certain appearance also? Like,
Like physically?
yeah, like physically, like should she always be well made up, have makeup on, look good, matching? Like, do you guys think
I mean, what do I do? I
Well,
try.
there's basic hygiene. Like you should be clean at the home.
wash your teeth, brush your teeth?
You know, it depends. I feel like in general, both husband and wife should both try their best to look beautiful for each other. So like, I'm not opposed to being like, at home you should look beautiful for your husband, and I think the husband should also try to look beautiful for his wife. I think it just makes the relationship a lot stronger. Like, you know.
We're not talking, Mariam, about like basic hygiene. Like, I'm not saying wash your face and brush your
Yeah, I know.
have makeup on, be willing to exercise, like, you know, be a part of that image where you can maintain an outside life while upholding that trophy wife status. Quote,
So
unquote.
I think I agree with you, but the intention would be different for me.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not for the outside, but like I should exercise and keep my body healthy because one, Islamically, and then two, just for my own health. And then I should want to look presentable. That doesn't, but presentable means different things for different people. For me, I'm not that much of a makeup person. Like I will not go out and put like a full face of makeup.
Yeah.
Versus some other people, like I can't go out without a full face of makeup. So it's different for each person. But I guess it's just whatever you're comfortable and whatever you think is presentable.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's more like the problem I have with all these different titles is that you're expected to be all of them. So like let's say your wife is a role, you're expected to be the trophy wife, and if you're a working woman, the perfect working woman that doesn't affect
That can
your health.
balance.
Yeah. Plus, if you have children, you're supposed to be this perfect soccer mom, like, and then all these coming together, and you're not supposed to let any ball drop. So you're supposed to juggle all these roles and have them all perfectly aligned. And then if you don't, you're judged for it by other people.
I think it just on a woman's mental health, I don't think that's healthy. And you know, that men tend to be more satisfied within marriages than women. And I feel like it may be because women try to take on so many things and are so burdened that I don't think it's healthy for us women in general.
You know what? I have to say though, this may sound like I'm not anti-woman, obviously, but I'm just saying, like, I feel like with us trying to pursue being equal or like everything that we wanted that we weren't being able to have, we kind of put a lot of pressure on ourselves to juggle everything at the same time. Like when women were fighting for like, oh, higher education and being professionals, let's say, for us it was, oh, we can do both. Like I will be a great professional and my house will be maintained. And then a woman wants to have kids and she puts it on herself that, oh, I can also be a great mom and work and maintain the house. Like I feel like a lot of pressure stemmed from a woman trying to be perfect when it wasn't necessarily expected at first. And then if you let that out, yeah, because like I don't feel like, sometimes I feel like women put too much pressure on themselves. They don't allow.
But that's I feel like that's because in a way it's like, okay, well, you have to maintain the rules that were given to you from before and then add on whatever you want to do. So no one asked you to get an education like before. No one asked you to get an education or start working. But if you want to, sure, go ahead. But you also have to keep in mind what you were doing from before.
But here's the thing. If we, okay, I understand where you're coming from and that makes sense. Like we're taking on extra things should be our problem to make sure everything is flowing smoothly. But
no, I'm not saying that we should. I'm just saying that was probably the mindset.
Yeah, but here's my thing. If you're doing things, like if you're putting too many things on your plate and you're making it seem like, oh, I'm going to do everything perfectly, I'm going to do everything 100%, then that becomes the expectation to begin with. Like if you did take on higher education and maybe you, I don't know, weren't upkeeping the house to 100%, your house is at like an 85 or something. Like that becomes the new norm. But the harder we push ourselves and to do everything 100% is what people are going to begin to expect. And it won't just be what they expect from the one person that decided to take that role. It'll be the expectation for every other woman after that.
I disagree with that because I feel like society is telling every woman that you need to keep your house at 100%, regardless of whether you think you should or not. You should be able to maintain it at that 100%. And then you wanted an education, so add on the burden of education, but you better keep the rules that you had in the past at 100%, especially if you want to keep adding things.
My issue isn't the fact that we have to keep our homes at 100% while we're doing great at school or work. My thing is, why do we feel like we have to do it alone? So why can't we be communicating with everyone else in the household, with your significant other, with your family, with if you have kids, and be like, okay, this is a unit, a team. When I'm at work, this is your role. When I'm not at work and you're at work, I'll do what I can. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
We do feel that burden in a sense, like, okay, no, I have to do it all because I'm on my own. And maybe that also what leads to like feeling, I guess, less satisfied in our marriages, because we don't have that way of communicating with someone else of like what I want and what I expect, or how we can work together to have this like so that we are both successful in what we want and also have a good, happy, healthy home.
Yeah.
Common pattern that we find when talking about like downfalls or things that really affect people is we're a lot of times very consumed with what society thinks and what we're meant to be. You know, like we were saying earlier, everyone is so different. Every situation is so different. Every relationship is so different that we really have to make it a point to stop trying to uphold certain expectations. You know what I'm saying? Like, if your relationship isn't the norm and it's not supposed to be the norm, but it's working for you, then we need to stop like making it seem inferior because it's not what everybody expects, or it's not the 100%. You know what I'm saying? And I know it's really hard because like I personally hold myself to standards, societal standards and norms, and you know I also want to fit that image because you feel like if you don't, then you're not doing something right, or if you don't, then like your spouse won't be happier, your in-laws won't be happier. You know what I'm saying? You feel like you're not living a full life.
And I think it's not necessarily like societal image. I feel like it's just the expectations that we've been taught since growing up. So it's not even like, the way I think of it, it's not necessarily like, oh, people look at me this. It's like, for me, it's like, this is what I should be doing. And if I'm not living up to that, then I'm feeling less of a woman or less of a person.
Yeah. And I think coming from Arab culture, we're one of the cultures that are very focused on like treating our girls a certain way and also like raising them a certain way, you know, raising them with the expectations that, you know, your role is to be in the house. And if you do decide to get an education, then both roles are on you and you'll figure out a way to make it work. And I think we've come from that, like we've come away from that because our parents do encourage us to get higher education. But also, alhamdulillah, those are our parents. Like not people are still being raised the same way that your central role is to be in the house. If your husband allows you to get an education, then you make it an education. You know, if he allows you to do something more, then that's on him.
I would say that's a minority, though. Most people, at least, maybe, I don't know if working is any different, but usually, like, you go to school for a job. But, like, when it comes to, like, at least education, like, going to college, like, 4 years undergrad, I don't know anyone whose parents was against it for them, or they had to fight their family to get it. At least it's a minority.
I feel like people are shifting away from that type of thinking because they realize how valuable an education and a job is, especially in a situation where women may be stuck in a domestic violence situation. How important it is to be financially independent in those types of roles. So you're not because a way to oppress a woman is to be financially superior or to cut her off financially so she feels like she can't leave the situation. So I feel like a lot of families are realizing how valuable an education is and a degree is and having a job is in the society.
And that's why a lot of women stay in domestic violence situation, because they can't afford to be independent. Like if I leave him, I don't know where to go or how I'm going to afford living. Or, you know, sometimes it's because of the family. But that's one of the main reasons why women end up staying with their abuser. And even if you go to a DV shelter, usually they're trying to get them to, you know, become more independent. Like, how do you get a job and, you know, get a house and all of that. So they try to help them out to be more independent so they don't have to stay in such a terrible situation.
But I don't even think it has to be in just situations of domestic violence. Like sometimes something happens, your husband gets hurt, he can't work. Or sometimes he just gets laid off and you need another income. Like I think it's so like it's really negative, and it's really sad to think that a woman should only be educated in case of the worst case scenario. You know what I'm saying? Like we
Yeah.
should encourage our girls to get educated just to get educated. We should continue. Look, we should encourage them to get jobs and to go out and be a part of the workforce, just to be a part of like society, to be out there, to be giving their opinions. Like I don't have anything against staying at home and being a housewife if that's what you choose to, but we shouldn't just be encouraging our girls to do it just in case something bad happens. Like
No,
you're
of course.
something, you should be encouraged just to do it.
I was just saying that I feel like that's how the change in the societal thinking. It changed because it was necessary, and now it's the norm.
Yeah.
So, for example, women started working because men were at war, and then it started to become the norm.
I just think it's unfortunate that we have to wait for something bad to happen in order to realize that this could be a good thing.
Or it wasn't an issue at the time, so that until something happened, people now had to change their roles and kind of reevaluate what they wanted to do or what they had to do.
Yeah, I think we were saying earlier how we're being raised and we're kind of that middle generation that's encouraged to study, and then also like finding your balance between being a good wife or like that traditional spouse view, you know, being like out of. And I mean, of course, everything we're saying is from like personal experience and how we're raised. You know, we can only talk about how what our parents were preaching to us and how we were being raised. But I don't know, what do you guys think about, how do you find that balance? Like you guys are all girls that are like, you know, all women that are pursuing higher education. So where do you think that balance would even lie?
I feel like that's the like question of life. Just how do you balance everything? Like not just even as a woman, but like
Yeah.
everyone in this world, like how do you balance like what you have to do for this life, what you have to do for the next life, like religious wise versus like what you do for work, what you do for family. It's just like our life is a constant struggle of having to balance everything in our life. I don't know. I don't think there's one right answer for anyone personally.
It goes back to like the relationship, like I was saying earlier. It goes back to the couple and how they want to run their family and what works best for them. I don't think it's specific to anybody, you know, because you have different roles. There's women who work and their husbands stay home. There's, you know, everything works differently for everyone. Everybody has different situations.
And because like I posed the question because we're kind of at that age where, you know, you are starting to get like marriage requests, and you do start to think about that. And when somebody does come and they're interested in marriage, I always think like, what's fair for you to ask, what's fair for him to ask, like
those are always so hard.
Yeah, like it's questions like, oh, what do you expect? And like
I hate those questions.
Yeah, so it's kind of like, what's fair for you to like build. And I guess it just depends on finding your person, you know, like the person that you will end up marrying, because then you guys will come to a compromise or something. But it's just always funny to me to see what other people expect you to do and then what you expect yourself to do.
But it's a really important conversation to have. I think knowing what roles you're expected of the other person and yourself, and to like clearly communicate that is really important. Because if he's expecting you to stay home, cook and clean, and you're like, well, I have this different, and you guys never talked about this, and you're married to him, and he's like, what do you mean you're working? You're done. You know what I mean? All of these conversations need to be had beforehand, so you're not up for surprises when you are married.
You shouldn't shy away from those types of conversations. And you guys, we need to remember that people cannot read your mind. Like, you shouldn't just think that they know what you want to do, or just assume that they know what you want them to do. So be vocal about it. Remember that. Just communicate. Just talk about it. Don't be shy.
I know.
It's
ultimately, communication is like the key to solving most issues. Or at least preventing a lot of issues as well. But it is hard because like when people have asked me that, it's like I want them to read my mind because I have an answer, but I'm not able to formulate it.
Or like you feel like when you say it, it's like, did that even make sense? Like, is that even realistic? Yeah. What I'm saying, like what people do, or is this just like a fairy tale?
But like I feel like it's also like, other than like the basics of like extremes, like okay, if someone wants stay-at-home wife versus someone to work, like unless it's those extremes, like the nuances of a relationship I feel like are hard to communicate. Or like you don't even realize that until you are in that relationship, it's like, okay, well, I realize we have to do XYZ. Who's gonna be doing that?
Yeah. Because like speaking about myself personally, or specifically about what I want, like I do want to have a profession, and I do want to be a really good wife, and I do want to be a really good mom. You know, like you want all of it, but it comes down to what's realistic about what. You know, like what are you going to give up in order to make something work, or you know, where is the extra effort going to be put in order to make something else happen? So it is hard to kind of find a balance, or to be able to say, okay, I'm going to give this up, or I'm going to put extra effort here, you know, and then finding a spouse that's supportive about your decision.
Or maybe it's changing the way in our mind what we think a good wife is or a good mom is. Because you can be a good mom, but not make it to every, PTA meeting, but you're still an amazingly good mom. So it's kind of like what society says is a good mom versus you actually being a good mom, or what society says is a good wife versus you actually being a good wife. So changing kind of what that even means doing.
One of my colleagues, she told me, she advised me, she's like, yeah, when you get married, she's like, don't be in a hurry. Like, you don't have to. She's like, when things get dirty, she's like, I'm not rushing to clean. She's like, it will get done eventually. If I'm not in the mood to clean, I'm not going to clean it. Like, you know what I mean? She's just like advising me. She's just like, we always feel the need to be like, I have to do it now. Everything has to be perfect. It has to be clean. And I feel like that's my type of personality. I can't stand something that's messy. But she was just like, you know what I mean? Like, who cares?
I think that's just
done. I need to get it done now. And I'm like, subhanAllah, like, that's so funny. She's just.
But was she always like that? Like, is that her personality?
I think she always tried to be maybe like always cleaning and stuff, and then she's just like, all right, like I don't need to always do this. Like I'm overwhelmed. I had a long day at work too. Like both of them work. They both have like their PhDs and are researchers and stuff like that. And so she's just like, you come home, you're just exhausted, and if I don't feel like cleaning, I'm not gonna clean. I don't have to do the dishes right away. Could wait till the morning. Like she was just that type, and she was advising me like, don't stress yourself out. And I'm like, that's so funny.
What stinks about that is if she's too tired to do it, then her husband won't do it. That's what.
Well, it seems like her husband.
Then I'll just wait.
I mean, you know when a woman talks and you can tell, like, I guess her husband is as helpful in the home, because it seemed like that's what she was saying. Like, she came from an Asian background, so like maybe those expectations are there as well. Yeah, so like the very traditional background where she has to cook and clean and take care of the house, and she decided to work, so she's doing that too. So it seems like all of that was on her, and she's like, I'm not going to feel the need to do it right there and then. Like if I want to relax, I'm going to relax. Like it's healthier for me, for my own mental health, and I want to relax as well. So I'm just like, wow.
No, that's good that she realized that, and that she knows how to set up like some sort of, I guess, limit or boundary so that she doesn't stress or overwhelm herself.
Yeah, I think amongst everything when it comes to juggling and finding balance is to take into consideration how you're actually feeling. Like I think it's really important sometimes to just take a step back, like take a breather. Like your colleague said, if she doesn't feel like doing anything, like take a day off. It's perfectly fine to just, relax, sit on your couch, watch TV. I mean, everybody does it, but I feel like when a woman does it, it's like, oh my God, like she's broke. Like something happened, like catastrophic, that she can't handle anything. But I really do think it's fine. Like go out, go shopping, go for a walk. Like it's okay not to be at 100 all the time. But I do think that I personally, this is my opinion, that one of the curses of being a woman is just never feeling like you're doing enough, or like never feeling like you could take a backseat. I feel like from like suffrage time and getting our rights, it's been like over 100 years, and women are constantly still feeling inadequate. And I don't know if that's something we'd ever get over, honestly. Like
it's not healthy. It's not healthy to like try to do it all and not have time for yourself. I was reading this book called The Surrendered Wife by Laura Doyle, and one of the things that she does in her, it's about marriage and how to make your marriage work. And a lot of things that she tells women is to take care of yourself. Like that's so important, because if you're not happy, like you're gonna probably make miserable, and you know what I mean. So it's about taking care of yourself, and don't expect somebody to give that happiness to you. That is all within yourself, like that happiness, the things that you want to do. So if you do your favorite hobby, you don't have to wait on somebody else or to expect something from other people. Kind of, I don't know if I'm not saying correctly, but like something like around those lines.
No, that is important, because we've always been taught to kind of be selfless.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna give up what we want so that someone else can be happy, whether it's like your husband or your children or whatever it is. Like, I'm gonna stay up all night to like take care of the baby and my husband will sleep, but that's because he goes to work. But then you're gonna give up what you want to do so that he can work, so that you can take care of the kids. It's always just like you're always thinking of how can I like do what I can so that other people are happy.
Nothing's worse than when someone says, "What? Taking care of your family doesn't make you happy? Being selfless doesn't make you happy?"
It's like it's hard because it's like there's a balance between being selfish and being selfless. I don't think being completely selfish will make you happy, and I don't think being completely selfless will make you happy.
No, it's more like they flip what it is. So it's like, what do you mean cleaning the house and seeing your home clean for your family doesn't make you happy? That's not all the happiness that you can have. It's
Yeah.
like, no, going reading a book outside makes me happy. Not cleaning all day for you makes me happy. Like, what? Obviously, seeing your family happy and clean and taken care of does make you happy, but also, like it's like you said, you need to find that balance,
Mm-hmm.
which
Yeah.
at this point I don't believe exists. So
No, it exists. It's just trying to find it.
Honestly, no. Sometimes you hear about like what couples do or how they balance their relationship, and it's something that you'd never expect to work. And I swear, it's smooth sailing. You know, like alhamdulillah, they're able to find out what works for them. And even when you find a compromise, or when you do find what works, it may be where you're pushing yourself to make everything 100%, and your spouse is also pushing themselves to make everything 100%. You know, it's just you just find what's okay for you.
I find that maybe it's not so much that they found the balance. I think it's more so they're okay with it not being 100 all the time.
Mhm.
They're just more easygoing and understanding. I think that's the more important aspect of it.
I think that's the most realistic way to go about things.
Because here's the thing, there's going to be weeks, let's say I'm in school and I have finals week. I'm going to slack off in something like maybe cleaning the house. You know what I mean? So whoever's living in the house with me should be more understanding and maybe pick up where I left off.
Yeah.
It's just having that understanding and just being like, okay, it is what it is. It's fine. Like, we'll just work through whatever situation we have. Or like with coronavirus, like let's say someone got laid off. Like, okay, we're going to struggle through this. Let's be more understanding. So just having that, being okay and sort of just dealing with what you have.
Okay, so based on the males you're surrounded with, like, you know, cousins, brothers, uncles, whoever that you talk to, do
Where's
you,
this going, Malak?
do you feel like men do look more for a trophy wife? Or do you think that they look more for a woman that wants to be out in the workforce and giving opinions and like taking matters into her own hands?
Well, I think I've like just made the men in my family, like they're just used to me always seeing and having an opinion and arguing with them. And we're usually like just having those conversations. So I don't know if they ever like expect a woman not to say anything.
Good job.
Like,
Yeah.
but
Like
I don't
that-
think, no, but not just that. Like, I don't think they would want someone there just to spend their money.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think that's something they would ever search for.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like with my family, like they encourage women to get their education, and yeah, there's like 6 women in my household, right? You best believe there's opinions going on, and I don't think that's the issue, but I think the expectation of the woman mainly taking care of the house is still there.
Yeah,
I think
that is.
I encourage you to still go get your education and you could work, but family life is first, and you know, cooking and cleaning is the expectation, and helping for them to help out here and there, you know.
Yeah.
But I don't consider that a
Predominantly that's
trophy
the
wife.
women's role.
I don't think that's a trophy wife, though.
Yeah, I don't think that's a trophy wife.
Yeah, I agree. I do. I mean, I don't have brothers, so my dad really can't compare like guys and girls or anything like that. But I do think that, like being raised, my family did always push us to get educated. So you know, like my parents personally are willing to do anything to make sure that we continue to get educated. But there's also, I want to say, like, I mean, I feel like my mom's more of the, you know, the family life is first and foremost, of course, where my dad's biggest thing was always like, just make sure there's a respect between you guys and everything else will work out. Like my dad's biggest thing is like, I feel like he very much instills in us like, your balance, the way you live your life may be different than the life you were raised in, but just make sure that you're always open-minded and you're always willing to meet like halfway. You know what I'm saying? So whether that's cleaning, whether it's you have somebody cleaning behind you and a cook 5 days a week, whatever it may be, but just like being willing to be understanding and intelligent about how you make your decisions.
I think for my family, it's for both genders or both people, it's putting family first and above all else. So ensuring like your family life is good and you do what you can to ensure a good household in whatever way that means. And in terms of like trophy wife, I don't think that really anybody wants that in my household. It's more like we want someone that has passion, drive, ambition, an education, and opinion I could talk to.
Yeah, I agree 100%.
I think the emphasis is just like, why are they going to just spend? It's not like they're against a wife spending a husband's money, but if that's like their sole purpose, and like, especially with the trophy wife image, like why?
Like being a gold digger, yeah, that's not cool.
Yeah, exactly. That would be something that they would think.
Yeah.
So again, I think we reiterate this numerous times when we're talking about our opinion mostly in episodes, but it is really vital just to find what works for you in a relationship. Or even if for women that aren't in a relationship, it's very important for you to find out what works for you. Like, what's your balance? And it's funny because even though us four, we spend a lot of time together, we're all raised in different households. And I'm pretty sure even amongst the four of us, our expectation of what marriage will be like varies significantly. Like, we all want something different and we all see our future very differently. So it's important that you look into what works for you. And honestly, I also suggest for all our specific like Muslim listeners or any other religious listeners to also look into your religion and your faith and to see what's required of you or even what's asked of you. Sometimes we also add extra pressures in those realms to ourselves that aren't necessarily there. So it's always interesting to go back and read about it and find out what your religious expectations are as a woman, as a wife, as a sister, etc. But thank you so much for tuning in and listening to another episode of To Whom It May Concern. Please continue to subscribe, like, and follow us on social media. If you don't already follow us, you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter at The Modern Skeps. We also upload our full-length episodes on YouTube, as you can see. So make sure you're also subscribing and liking our videos there. And please continue to share The Modern Skeptics with all your friends if they don't already listen. If you have any ideas you'd like us to discuss, we're always looking for new topics, and you can email us at modernskeptics@gmail.com. Sincerely, The Modern Skeptics. P.S. I'd rather want a trophy marriage than to be a trophy wife.